second time in Prague, and for the local and international running community, that can only mean the Prague Half Marathon, sponsored by Herbis. As you can see, this is an IAAF gold label race. That's to say, it's the absolute best, the top of the series. The gold, silver and bronze labels issued by the IAAF. There's the roof, incidentally, of the National Theatre that we're just looking at on a very sunny day in Prague. Temperatures are around 19 degrees Celsius and probably are going to go up into the low 20s. This is much hotter than normal. It shouldn't really worry the lead runners too much, but maybe those people who are going to be running for up to 2 hours are going to be a little stressed out. There in the background, Prague Castle. And some of the elite runners. Asmarau in that orange shirt, he's one of the Ethiopians. That's Lydia Cheremay in lime green there. She's one of the favourites for the women's race. Rosea, another of the Kenyans. A big Kenyan and Ethiopian representation. Humidity is not very high, but the temperature is probably a little higher than most of the runners would hope. I mean, something like 10, 12 degrees would be ideal. As you can see, bright sunshine, so that's making matters a bit worse. Now that's the river, the Vltava, that runs through the centre of Prague, and the course goes up and down, round and about the river, crossing a couple of times. 21.1 kilometres, of course, the half marathon distance. Well, just a couple of metres short of 21.1 kilometres. Start in Jan Palach Square, one of Prague's great modern heroes. The square next to the Rudolfinum, the concert hall. And this year we've got 9,500 runners competing. And there are the flags from some of the 87 nations represented here, including, of course, the host nation, the Czech Republic, but runners from all over the world. And some of the small African nations, as you can see there, the Brazilian flag. Now these are the folks who are hoping to beat their personal best. A midday start, incidentally. There's the seat of government across the river. A very placid day. Now last year was quite windy and that probably prevented a sub 60-minute race, but we're hoping that these guys are going to come back with a sub 1 hour, a sub 60 minutes, which is really the touchstone of a world-class half marathon. Some of the favourites right at the top there. Those top three guys, incidentally, have already run under 60 minutes for the half marathon distance. Weidlinger from Austria, national champion at virtually all of the long distances. Robert Stefko wearing number 13, Czech national running hero. He's now in his early 40s, Stefko, so he's not expected to be right up at the front there. And some of the other runners who are going to be contesting the national title, if you like, here. Well, for early April, it's a very, very nice day. As I say, maybe a little too warm. Numbers 5 and 6, two of the leading Kenyan elites. That's Philemon Limo wearing number 5 and Boniface Kirui. Limo, a 61.25 man. He's only run one half marathon in the past. That was exactly a year ago in Milan. Well, as you can see, it's a nice day for taking a stroll by the nearby river. And there's one of the famous river restaurants as we look at the women's field. Twice winner Rose Kosgei comes back trying for her hat-trick, but she's already said that facing her colleague F2 Lydia Cheremay is going to make it really, really difficult. And there are some of the local runners with Korobsh Itar of Ethiopia. One of 2 or 3 very good Ethiopians in the field. Of course, lots of good Kenyans. As usual, it should be the East Africans to the fore in both the men's and women's race. But once again, an absolutely beautiful day here in one of Europe's most beautiful cities. About to set out for the men 1 hour. In the foreground there, race director Carlo Capalbo, head of the Prague International Marathon organisation, giving the thumbs up to his organisers. As the mayor of Prague, there he is, Bohuslav Svoboda gives the starting signal, and off they go. As Weidlinger, the Austrian, is right to the fore there. Well, he's going to have a big task on his plate today. That's the Rudolfinum, the large gold-coloured building to the top left. And these are some of the 9,500 runners. That was the limit, incidentally. There were another 2,500, I believe, who were refused entry and told hopefully next year. Well, the concert hall in the background and the Czech national anthem virtually. Smetana's Vltava to the refrains of the great song, echoing the river alongside which most of this race is run. The elites charge off up that mat covering the cobblestones. There are a couple of stretches of cobblestones making it a little more difficult, but it's a relatively flat course since it's up and down the river. However, there are some road tunnels, so they go down into the tunnel, and of course there's a slight gradient uphill. They're heading off towards the National Theatre at the moment. Well, once the race unfolds, we'll pick out the lead runners for you, but for the time being, these are the mass participation runners. More and more people across the world taking up long distance running. A great help to the health of any nation, and not least the Czech Republic. And there are the race leaders. Edward Muge is the designated pacemaker. They don't appear to be going too fast at the moment. The course record, incidentally, that they're hoping to break today, the men that is 60.07. That was set 2 years ago by Nicholas Koech. Koech won, of course, that year. He was third last year, and he was going to come this year, but unfortunately he sustained an ankle injury about 10 days ago, and he gave it 2 or 3 days, but he had to pull out at the beginning of this week. So Koech is not here to defend his fastest half marathon in Prague, but there's a lot of his colleagues who are going to set out there to break it, and a couple of the neighbouring Ethiopians, of course. Women's course record 69.03, and that belongs to Rose Kosgei of Kenya again. She's won the last 2 years. As we take a look at some of the thousands and thousands of mass participation runners. There's Robert Stefko, by the way, to the left of your picture, just taking a look at his watch. Now 42 years of age, they pass the kilometre mark. Stefko, as you can see, is running not far behind the women at the moment. And that's the National Theatre again, so he knows at his age now, a veteran, that he can't really keep up with this guy or these guys. The Austrian, Günther Weidlinger, on the other hand, he's right in the middle of the pack behind Muge. Jairus Chanchima there, tall, statuesque figure in the dark outfit. And there's Weidlinger right behind, and one of the Moroccans just behind him. Austrian national record holder at this distance and at the marathon. There's a group of about a dozen in there at the moment, going very steadily. And these are some of the charity contestants. Parents and children, there's a big charity movement as part of this event. And there's the famous dancing house, also known, I believe, as Fred and Ginger, after Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. A splendid example of modern Czech architecture, echoing the famous Art Deco architecture of the whole city, which is one of the gems of Central Europe. Well, a couple of kilometres into the race now. Good aerial shot there. And there's a close-up, and the group appears to have speeded up. They're being guided through the early stages of this race. Edward Muge is the pacemaker. And that's a look at one of the other castles, the Vyšehrad Castle. Again, right on the banks of the river. And again to the strains of the Vltava. You see that group is already down to about 10 men maximum, with 1 or 2 peeling off the back. So, although the pace may not look fast, it obviously is. They're into the 4th kilometre, and you can see Muge bending to his task now. Every race director wants a sub-60-minute half marathon, and that's exactly what these guys are looking for. Titus Masai, he's also another sub-1 hour man. That's Muge again in the lead. Masai is right behind him. And behind Massa, now that's a bit of a, well, too long a gap really between the pacemaker and the followers. And I think one of the race marshals is asking Muge to throttle back a bit, as indeed he's doing, and letting the chasing pack catch up. Muge, a very good half and marathoner in his own right. Choosing to make the pace today for his compatriots, and the man in the pinkish orange vest, Asmara Bekele, 59.39. He's the fastest man in the field. He did that just 3 weeks prior to this race, and he said that's it's not a problem for him. He said because frequently the 20k training runs that he and his colleagues do in Addis Ababa, the Ethiopian capital, which of course is a couple of thousand meters above sea level, he said our 20-kilometer runs are as hard as a half marathon race. So there's a look at the 5k time and the distance between the leaders. Well, of course, Muge and about 5 or 6 of the others are on that same time, 14:04. It's a very rapid time, that. So they're well on course for a time round about 59, 10, 20 or 30. So at the moment, substantially inside the course record of 60.07. Tall figure in the dark vest, Jairus Chanchima. Muge leads them around that loop turn. Asmarau is still in there. So it's 5 Kenyans against Asmarau Bekele, wearing number 4. Number 2 is Chanchima. We've also got number 3 in there, Masai. Henry Chirchir is hanging on in there, and Limo. Philemon Limo, the taller figure, he's taken up the running from the group chasing the pacemaker. Best of only 61.25 in the only marathon that Limo has run, exactly a year ago in Milan. But he's on good form, Limo. He finished 7th in the World Cross Country Championships a couple of weeks prior to this race. That was in the south of Spain. And really, anywhere in the top 20 in the World Cross Country means you're on absolutely superlative form. So Limo is relatively untroubled by this pace as we come back across the Vltava. And they're heading back again. As I said, up and down the river. They come back to the Rudolfinum and go out again. Now, first look at the women here. On the left is Lydia Cherame. Now, this young woman won the World Cross Country title for juniors at the age of 13. A quite extraordinary performance. She's now 34 years of age. She sort of disappeared for a few years in the middle of her career and has come back as a very good marathon runner. That's Rose Kosgei in the purple vest, twice winner and course record holder. Kosgei going for a hat-trick. There's a pacemaker. Behind them, one of the Ethiopians, Belenesh. So that's Cherame to the left of your screen. Kosgei right in the middle with the very short hair. Cherame with a ponytail. Her daughter Faith is now 5 years old, and the pacemaker, he appears to be following them. They're quite happy to set the pace themselves. Back to the men. Oh, and the pressure is really on now. Well, it looks as if the pacemaker Muge has dropped back, and it looks as if Philemon Limo has taken up the relay. Masai is right behind him. Back to the women. That's Belenesh of Ethiopia and Kosgei, but they're in second and third at the moment because Cherame has got away from them. Cherame running very, very well indeed. In fact, she's so far ahead at the moment, you can barely see her. Well, taking a look at Kosgei there, our race winner for the last 2 years. Well, a third consecutive victory is looking a bit unlikely at the moment. But there's the distance that Limo has got away from this pair. That's Masai and Asmarau, so the Kenyan and the Ethiopian. And here's the race leader, 21 seconds ahead of those two pursuers. and running very well indeed. Now, excuse me, I think this may be one of the back markers. I think that's, in fact it is, yes. Mugué's dropped back. He's in about 5th position, and that's Churchill behind him. Now we're out on one of the quieter parts of the course. As you can see, hardly any crowd out here. So really it needs a lot of confidence, certainly a lot of concentration from these guys to keep that going. Race leader looking very comfortable at the moment. 45.30. So he's well into the, well, past the 3rd quarter of the race. He's on the way home now, and he's still well under 60 minutes. These are the chasing pair of Masai and Asmarau. Well, the marginal race favourite was Asmarau by dint of that 59.39 he did 3 weeks ago. But it may be that, well, as runners say, that may still be in his legs a little. And he may be a little tired. But these guys are well adrift of Philemon Lemo now. They're over a half a minute behind. And they're running for 2nd and 3rd place because they are also well ahead of their pursuers. The pacemaker has stayed in the race. Mugué wants to finish, so he's hanging in there. It's Masai, another sub-60 minute man. He's taking up the charge for that 2nd place. But look at that, 50 seconds lead now. Well, that's between Lemo and Mugué in 4th place. Nevertheless, it's still a good half minute between Lemo and the 2 pursuers. And he really is stretching out now. Still looks very good on one of the slight gradients on the course. He said his training has gone very well. He's from Kisii in Kenya, and they're running alongside the river. That's the weir there that some of the paddlers train on. And in fact, they're running right past the hotel where they're staying, and they're going to go into one of the tunnels. And really, look at this glorious isolation for Lemo. He's way ahead of Masai and Asmarau. There's absolutely no doubt he's going to win this race. And the only doubt now is whether he's going to break that 60 minutes. He's well on course to do it. As you can see, he's out of that gradient. He's got another one to go. The view across the river, still looking very comfortable. Beautiful form. He's quite a tall man for a distance runner. It used to be that the shorter men were better at the marathon, but that's all gone out of the window since the East Africans, particularly the Kenyans, have taken up marathon running. The last time across the bridge, and look at this, he's really sprinting for it. He's got a minute in hand, and he's got less than 800 metres to run. Probably about 400 metres, in fact. Look at that. He's going to run something like 59.5 minutes. Philemon Lemo has absolutely taken this record apart. It was 60.07. Past the 21k, he's got 97.5 metres to run. It's the last turn. Look at that, 59.20. He's got about 10 seconds left. Onto the blue mat, into the finish area, and a flat-out sprint, 29.30. 59.30, an absolutely splendid run from 25-year-old Philemon Lemo. Asmarau Bekele of Ethiopia picked up the pace in the last couple of kilometres, and he's going to come home in 2nd place. But well adrift, look at this, he's well over a minute behind Lemo. It's still an excellent time, but he's done a lot faster, and he knows it. Masai has come in 3rd place, but they've been well beaten by 25-year-old Philemon Lemo. An absolutely terrific performance. And look at those folks feeding through. They're just about at the 10k marker, so they're barely at halfway. And here's Mugué, the early pacemaker. He's hung in there, and he's finishing very well indeed in 4th place. In fact, he was fifth. We missed Henry Churchill in fourth. Hosea Machurinyang. There is Muge coming in fifth place, 61.39. And there is our top seven. Apart from the Ethiopian Bekele in second place, it's Kenyans all the way, but top of the shop, Philemon Kimeli Limo, 59.29. That is going to be slightly altered to 59.30, I understand, and some of the famous check glass is going to take home with him. Well, he's sweating, he deserves to. He's put in an absolutely tremendous performance here, right in the heat of the Prague midday sun. He's taken the course record apart in the Hervis Prague half marathon, 59.29 or 30, over half a minute inside the record. And this young man has got a great future in front of him. He's only been running for a couple of years. At his first international race exactly a year ago, did 61.25, and he's just taken that time apart, almost 2 minutes faster in his second half marathon. Asmara Bekele second, Titus Masai of Kenya in third place. And from one Kenyan to another, that's the ponytail Lydia Cheromey, going just as well as Limo, and in fact she's going comparatively better because she's over a minute inside the course record time set by Rose Kosgei, who's currently in third place. Kosgei won this race twice, has been outclassed today. She more or less hinted at it at the press conference. She said this is going to be the hardest of her three races here in Prague because she said that Cheromey is on great form, that she's very strong. And here's the proof of that, because Cheromey is well over a minute ahead, both of Belenesh, the Ethiopian, in second place, and Kosgei in third. There it is, less than 100 meters to run. And the cyclists are cheering already because they know that she's well under the course record of 69.03. In fact, look at this. It's going to be a minute and a half. Countdown exactly 90 seconds she's taken off the course record. Well, Limo took over a half a minute off the men's record, and Lydia Cheromey has taken a minute and a half off the women's record. There's Belenesh of Ethiopia coming in. She won the Honolulu Marathon a couple of months ago. Stepping down a distance, those runners have still got half a marathon left to run as she comes over the final bridge. Belenesh Zemedkun of Ethiopia. She's going to be outside the previous course record of 69.03, and that really is a measure of just how well Lydia Cheromey has run today. An absolutely superlative run from Cheromey. And Belenesh is going to finish in 69.16, thereabouts. As you can see, she's over a minute and 40 seconds behind the race winner. And here is the winner for the last 2 years, Rose Kosgei, coming in. 69.31 for Kosgei. Well beaten today. Lydia Cheromey, 67.33. That's the second fastest women's time this year. And it's certainly just outside the top 10 all time. Belenesh, a minute and a half down. Kosgei couldn't make it a triple header. There's Belenesh, place prize. Rose Kosgei has already received her. She's on the podium to the right there, looking a little disconsolate. But a superlative victory for Lydia Cheromey. She was a star at 13 years of age when she won the World Cross Country title back in 1991. And here she is 20 years later. After a career hiatus, her daughter Faith is now 5 years old. Lydia Cheromey wins the Prague Half Marathon. And we're just going to take a look, and we're going to leave you with a resume of everything that happened in today's Hervis Prague Half Marathon.